And look, for those of you who don't know, this Constitutional Candidate Series is a way that we can bring to you the candidates who are running for office, who we believe are running on the basis of protecting and advancing the Constitution of the United States of America, and and we're going to bring you not only good candidates from across the country, like today's guest, Lovelynn Gwinn, who's running in New York City, in Harlem, and to take on a Democratic incumbent who's never had a challenger from the Republican side. And she's running a really strong race, and we hope to hear a lot about her race, very, very shortly. But I wanted to give you an idea, because there are candidates, when they go out and they try to raise some money from campaigns and things of that nature, they do so in a they do so in a way where they go behind closed doors and they see these candidates and they run these type of efforts to win over the organization, to win over their financial support, to win their endorsement. And what happens is all behind closed doors. So we want to bring this to you live and in real time, and bring this to you from the Constitutional Rights Pack. So I'd like to welcome Lovelynn Gwinn. Lovelynn, it's good to have you. Thanks for agreeing to the interview here.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me. I'm very excited to be a part of this.
So tell me about yourself, your background, the area that you're running in. Tell me about why you decided to run for Congress.
Well, I live in Harlem. I've lived in Harlem, New York for about 20 years. I own here. I never imagined myself to be a politician. I have plenty of friends who've run for various offices, but I never envisioned myself doing it until fairly recently, when I realized that either I had to start thinking about how I could possibly step in and make a change, or I was going to have to leave. I decided to step up. My friends encouraged me, and they told me they would help me along the way. And so that's basically where I'm at. I proudly tell everyone I am a candidate, but I'm really not a politician. I'm just here. I want to represent the district that I'm in. The district that I'm in is basically a very middle-class type of district. It is Manhattan, but the average Manhattanites, that's very, very little. They work hard. They are your basic everyday people that you see that basically want help. They need help with all of the things that everybody wants. We want neighborhoods to be safe. We want good schools for our kids. We want food security, basic things. And unfortunately, I've watched most of those things erode over, the past few years. It's gotten to be not so great.
So you're in Harlem, you're in New York City, and you're a Republican. How did that happen?
Well, I was always a Republican, but I didn't actually realize that there's actually a lot of Republicans here, but it's always handled in strangely hushed tones. I mentioned to somebody that I was going to go see Janine Pirro speak, and then a very nice African-American woman goes, "Oh my God," she goes, "Lovelynn," she goes, "You're a Republican?" And she lowers her voice like it's some kind of secret club or something. I'm like, "Yes, I'm proud Republican." She goes, "That's fantastic." And I'm like, yeah, it is fantastic. But I think that a lot of the people here are quiet about being a Republican just because of the current climate of things. And we have another side, the left, they don't really respect boundaries. And so I think there's a fear of being attacked personally, or having their children attacked, or their properties attacked. So they tend to stay quiet. But once they know you're one of them, then they're like all happy to see you. And it is a very strange world. I've never experienced anything like it. I'm like, oh, a secret society, Republican.
Especially where you're from. And I appreciate that you've taken the opportunity to run for office. Many folks look at a race like yours, and they see, it's a heavily Democratic district. The Republican hasn't won there in eons, if ever. And you decided to run anyway. And I appreciate that, because, we got to make the only way we win is if we run. and the only way we start winning over these democratic strongholds, these cities, these inner cities, is to run competent candidates against these Democrats who have literally been choking the life out of our inner cities and our metropolitan areas across the country. You see what's going around, with the riots, with the high taxes, with the lockdowns recently with COVID. So tell me about life in New York.
Well, I think that, we have ineffective leadership. We have Mayor de Blasio, who is basically, we're still shut down. Only today, Cuomo decided they're going to open up the restaurants. A lot of people who live in these neighborhoods where I would be representing work in restaurants at $43,000 a year. That's the kind of work that you could possibly do. Your, wait staff, your kitchen help. There's a lot of people who depend on those industries to be, booming so that they can make an income. And when they're not, this is really problematic. I think that, at some point you have to be like, we know what this is, and we have to be brave enough to, let's just take it on. And we take precautions and we do what we have to do, clean things, and let people decide whether they want to come out or not. If you're not comfortable coming out to shop or coming out to a restaurant, then stay home. But there are plenty of people who feel comfortable to come out and want to shop and want to do other things. And I think it really boils down to choice. And somehow I feel like our choice has been taken away from us. We're not being given our choice. We're just being told what to do.
Well, there are a lot of reports that there are Uhaul shortages in New York City because people are leaving at record pace. And there are obviously people who can't leave, who are where they are, and they're in the city for good, bad, or indifferent, and some of them love New York. I mean, for a lot of years, since Giuliani, New York has been a great place and a great place to live, and this mayor that you have now, de Blasio, has completely destroyed it. So do you think that the folks that are leaving, from your impression, are on the right side, on the left side? How is this going to affect your race?
Well, and I don't think they're really leaving so much from my district, because my district, most of the people don't have the ability to leave. They have to be here. This is not where they're leaving in droves. They're leaving from droves from down in Midtown and from Upper West Side, where they're a little wealthier. And yes, I've seen the Uhaul shortage because there is a Uhaul place by me, and there is not a truck on that lot. And normally it's full of trucks. They don't have one truck, one trailer. There's nothing. It's just empty. So I'm like, well, gee, that looks like they're being people in successful businesses. But unfortunately, most of the people here, they're here. They're not able to pick up and leave. Moving is expensive. It costs lots of money to move. You have to be able to pay for the move, and then you've got to have a place to go to, which means you've got to have money to secure a new place. Plus, you've got to have a job, and most of the people that live in this district don't have that kind of financial wherewithal to be able to pick up and move. And, they don't have that luxury.
And so the only way to fix it is to change, right? Change the leadership. And elect people who are going to actually care about the area and not just care about heading out to D.C. and making the black tie circuit. So let me ask you some questions about your positions, because, for us, it's about the Constitution. It's about, conservative values are very important. And if we're any candidate that we're going to support, not only, do they have to kind of align with our values and align with the Constitution, but it's important now that this is, obviously, this is a videotaped. We're going to live stream this. We're going to push this through and post it up on our website, and we're going to push it out. And your answers, in my humble opinion, are going to lock you into these positions. And it's important for us to do that because, like I said, a lot of times when these things happen, these conversations happen behind closed doors, there's no accountability. So we want to make sure that there is accountability, and that your values do align with ours, so that our donors have an understanding as to who they're giving to and what to expect when you win your office and you're in Congress. So first, a very important question. It's not a litmus test, but it is a It is something very important to us. Are you pro-life or you're pro-choice?
I am pro-life all the way, all the
Okay.
way. My mom, growing up, my mom was a nurse, and she told us this story about as a young nurse coming out of school, that she was working in the hospital in the emergency room, and because you're a new nurse, guess what? You only get the overnight shift. And she told me a story about how she was asked to come in and assist a doctor with a procedure, but she didn't know what the procedure was going to be. She just said, go and help. So my mom walks into this operating room, and this man is doing an illegal abortion. And the woman was fairly far along. And the story that she tells is so horrifying. It really kind of affected me growing up. I just can't imagine, not being pro-life. And I think it's one of those things when you have someone close to you have an experience and then they tell their story, it sticks with you. And for me, that's always stuck with me.
And in New York, they of course passed basically third trimester, even in some cases they're okay with even post-birth abortion. My governor, we call him Governor Blackface Baby Killer, is perfectly okay with letting a doctor and a mother make a decision after the baby is born through maybe a botched abortion procedure to just let the baby die on the table.
Horrifying.
And so it is an important issue, and it is something that is important to us, and I think it sets the table. If you're pro-life, then and you value life, then it's much easier to value the freedom and liberty that and the rights that we have within the Constitution. So this election has been about law and order versus riots and 93% peaceful protests. Of course, the 93% peaceful protests is what CNN said the other day, that there were 93% of the protests were peaceful. So only 7% were throwing Molotov cocktails and bricks through windows. How do you feel about what's going on? With the obviously there's quote unquote racial tensions being flamed by the left, and the pain of that is being absorbed, particularly where you live and across a lot of metropolitan areas through the city. How do you feel about what's going on right now?
I think it's really, in so many ways, heartbreaking. I think that, they're bad apples. I buy a 5-pound bag of apples. Sometimes I get one bad one. I don't throw an entire bag of apples out because there's one bad apple in a bag. And I feel like it's kind of the same way with our police. There are going to be bad actors and bad characters, but that doesn't mean we demonize all of them. I am 100% back to blue. I don't believe in defunding the police. If anything, I think they need more support. Maybe they need more training. Maybe we need to do a better job of choosing who we put on the force so that we find people who are definitely mentally stable and able to handle the job. But as far as some of the stuff, it's just so far gone. And I also think that, when you're making a split-second decision, you hope and you pray you get it right. But you know what? There are going to be times when you make a split-second decision, and it's not going to be right. You don't know. But when it comes down to your life or someone else's, in a lot of situations, you just have to go with whatever that gut tells you to do, and you do it, and you pray for the best. And I think often people don't understand the amount of, the amount of time, the small amount of time that you have to assess something, and then you're going to take an action. And it's like literally seconds. And so I think the police job is very hard. And I hate to see them so demoralized in New York City. They just really, when you see them walking and you see how they carry themselves, you can tell that they've been really kind of beaten down. They used to be more prideful and used to see them, and it's just different now. The attitude is different. A lot of them are retiring, which I'm very sad to see. And I don't know who's going to do this job. I think that part of the problem is because we've got a mayor who doesn't support them and chastise them. We've got a governor who also does the same thing, and they need support from the top. And I think it's better if they would have some support so they can feel comfortable in doing the job that they're doing. They're professionals. I don't get it,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, you know, we're coming up to September 11th in 2 days. We're recording this today. It's September 9th. We're going to air this on September 11th, and I think it's important because we have to remember that. I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in I was born in Queens and grew up in Long Island. I was in New York on 9/11. I lost people. A cop, very good friend of mine, youngest police officer to die in the Trade Center. And there was such pride, such love for the NYPD. And these leftist, socialist agitators, these paid agitators, are trying to smear and trying to wedge the relationship of New Yorkers and the NYPD. And, you know, for me, watching what the NYPD did at 9/11, how many of them ran into those buildings when, even after the building fell down, the first building fell down, my friend and other police officers, Mark Ellis, by the way, was his name. He saw the first building fall. He got out. He saw the first building fall, and then he went into the second building to go get more people out, and that building collapsed on him. And you know, it's terrible that these leftists are putting a wedge between the people of New York and the NYPD. What are you seeing on the ground? I mean, are the people, the everyday people, the residents in your district, are they calling to defund the police, or is it just an orchestrated political attack?
The residents definitely do not want to defund the police. I've been going to the sector meetings. We have our different precincts, and then because precincts are big, they break them up into sectors. And they've been having crime and safety meetings with these neighbors, and I've been attending a lot of them. And they do not want to defund the police. They want the neighborhood to be safer. They understand that they are basically, the manpower is down, so they're short. And at the same token, they're doing the best they can do with what they have. But this is not something that residents here want. We've gotten to this place now where it's no longer, as a woman, for me to go outside. I can't go to the corner store at night. I used to walk to the corner store and get treats and candy, because at 9 or 10 o'clock, I don't keep it in my house. Maybe I want a piece of candy or I want an ice cream. I could walk to the store. No, I can't do that anymore. It's too dangerous. You know, you can get robbed at gunpoint. It's not safe. And so people want to feel safe when they want to go outside. They don't want to feel like they're threatened, or that you can't take the subway, because when you get off the subway and you have to walk a block, you know, that your life could possibly be threatened. It's very different. And I've lived here a long time. And even when it was bad, it was never like this. I tell them it was bad, but it was a different kind of bad. This is just outright crazy. Part of the problem is because of the no bail reform. They're letting people back out onto the street that should be probably kept in. There's a man that runs around with a machete threatening people. They keep him in 4 hours, and in 4 hours he's back out here threatening people on the corner with a machete again. And it's just a daily wash, rinse, and repeat. And I'm like, I don't understand why they can't keep this guy in before he actually seriously hurts somebody. You know, it's kind of crazy. And, you know,
we talk about, 9/11, and obviously it was the very best of New York came out and supported each other for not just that day, that morning, but for months on end. You know, we all got together and picked ourselves back up and helped each other out. But there was also some really bad things that came out of 9/11. Do you support the Patriot Act, and would you vote for it as a member of Congress?
Well, you know, that's something that I think when it was passed, it was needed, and maybe we need to actually look at it a little closer, because I wonder sometimes, you know, where does the fine line become where they're infringing upon people's rights for their own privacy versus, and our own constitutional rights versus, you know, the entire country's safety? There's got to be a line, and I keep thinking maybe we need to re-examine it, because sometimes I do think it gets taken maybe to the extreme. And that's something that, you know, it's a tough place. I think that we need it, but maybe we can fine tune it a little bit to give you an answer.
You know, the privacy issues are important. You know, like we saw the FISA courts being abused during the during the 2016 campaign and after, where they were spying on members of the Trump team. Those things are all kind of outgrowths of the Patriot Act. And they're really bad things. And then, of course, we went to war. We went to war in Iraq on bad intelligence. We were still in Afghanistan. Trump's desperately trying to pull people out of there, but the war machine won't let him. How do you feel about these endless wars?
I don't like them. I think that why are we in all these endless wars? I think that it's time we got out of it. Let's bring our guys home. Let's bring the troops home. We leave a small amount of people there just to help maintain the peace and, help with whatever is needed on the ground. I think it's a good thing. But all these people, a lot of them can come home now. And I don't really see the need for it. As we keep progressing forward, I see more peace deals being negotiated. President Trump's, going to have the Nobel Peace Prize. I think that, this is a different time now. And I don't necessarily think that, the wars are appropriate to continue on. And I think that there's time for peace. And I think that time is now.
Well, let me ask you a different question. When you're in the district, and I'm assuming you're pro-Trump, right?
Oh yes,
okay,
yes.
Pro-president. You're not one of those never Trumpers running, right?
Oh no, I was always pro our president.
So how do the folks in your district feel about the president?
Well, it's really interesting. The legal immigrants, ones who came here legally, they love him. They think he's the best thing. It's just like, and, they applaud him and they're excited to have him. Some of the other people, not so much so. But what I find is that there's definitely a core support for him. I'm always a little surprised because it's one of those things people, the media would have you believe that would not be true. But the reality is it's it is the truth that we have plenty of people who support him. They're just not so vocal about it, again, because of the fact that there's issues with boundaries. The left, progressive radicals do not have any boundaries, and so therefore they will irrationally attack people for holding a view that's different. And if you value your personal safety, sometimes, as much as I hate to say it, it's better to be quiet because I really want to come home in one piece and not have some part of my body slashed or something crazy. And, at the end of the day, I can hold my beliefs and it's okay. But I wish in so many ways we didn't have to do so much of that, a little more free speech.
During COVID and New York City is still locked down. I mean, they're just opening up restaurants now. It's ridiculous. Yeah. What are you doing to reach out to voters?
Well, that's actually been interesting. So, we're doing some mail campaign. And then I've been going to the sector, as I mentioned earlier, the sector policing neighborhood, meetings that they have every week, and every sector has got them. So we have plenty of them all over. And then there's also, I have a group of young people who are soliciting people to sign up to vote, so registering voters. And the church that I live across the street from has been closed since March, but they go out there on the weekends and they pass, all the people are passing by heading towards the train station. They ask them if they're registered to vote. And, if they're not, they sign them up. So that's been a good thing. And the rest of it is just basically, I'm getting together a ground team of sorts. And a lot of it is just me. And I go out and I talk to people and, it's word of mouth like anything else. And we just go from there because it's not like you can have mass gatherings. And, we're in a different time and a lot of people are still inside, they come out for moments and then they go running back inside.
Well, tell me about your opponent.
My opponent is Adriana Espaillat, and he basically votes with AOC 96% of the time. He wants to defund the police via his Harlem manifesto. He wants the Green New Deal. He himself came to the U.S. as an illegal immigrant, and he proudly announces that. And sadly, part of the reason why I got involved in this was because he doesn't really represent my entire district. My district is fairly large. If who don't understand or know, this district on the east side goes from 96th Street on the east side all the way to the top of Manhattan. On the west side, about 100th Street all the way to the top of Manhattan. We have a section of the Bronx. The current incumbent only focuses on a section of the Bronx and then a portion of Manhattan that's above 157th Street. So that leaves everybody else south of 157th Street down to 100 on the west and down to 96 on the east side forgotten. We never hear from him. We never see him. He's very focused up there. He spends most of his time trying to help other illegal immigrants and, avoid ICE and crazy stuff. But yet we really need people who represent us, who live here, all of the district, not just some of the district, not the district, part of the district that you like, or that he's from the Dominican Republic. So there's a section that has mostly Dominican Republic, and those are the people his core group that he likes to stick with. But yet this district has gotten a lot more diversified. I'm a Hawaiian. I live in Harlem. There are other Hawaiians here who live in Harlem. There are all kinds of other people who are coming here who all live here, and yet, what about us? Who's representing us?
So you got a nickname for your opponent?
Not really, although he does have his Cesar Chavez moments. Little Caesar.
So he's quite socialist, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he is.
So are you for reopening schools, reopening businesses? You think the mayor is doing a fine job with COVID there?
Our mayor's a hot mess. I am no worse for this guy. He's just a hot mess. I don't know what he's smoking or what he's doing, but they really just need to open stuff up and let people decide. Give people choices and let them decide. If you feel your kids, I have friends who want their kids to be back in school, and they feel like they should be able to send their kids to school. They want to go back to work, and they want their routines to come back to normal. I understand there are some people who are afraid and they want to do homeschooling, and that's fine too. But at least give us a choice of what we can do instead of, basically closing everything off. And I think that some of the draconian rules to these things is just unreasonable. It doesn't make sense.
Do you support these mask mandates?
No, I don't. Although I think that if you want to wear a mask, wear one. I personally don't want to wear one. But if it makes you feel better, if you feel comfortable wearing one, you choose to do what you want to do, but don't impose your system of values on me. I choose not to wear one, and therefore, but don't give me and I won't give you a hard time for wearing one. How about that? I think it's fair.
Absolutely. So last question here. Why should our donors, who obviously some of them are doing well, some of them are not, why should they stroke a check and help your campaign?
Well, I want to help to represent all of the people in my district, not just some, but all. And I think that, as I've been making calls, because I've been doing the dialing for dollars, I've been calling all across this country. The country, so many people are really in pain. It's really bad. And when I start to talk to business owners all across the country, I realize that, the media almost doesn't care. They actually revel in the fact that on Americans who are not doing well. And I want everybody to do well. And I want to be able to help put into place things that help people to do well. I don't want to see socialism. I think that, we should be given a freedom of choice. You choose what's good for you. I, have what I think is good for me, but I'm not the one that's going to decide what's good for you. And at the same token, we do need some common sense here. Common sense would be, we need the police. we need to be protected. And, quality of life is a huge issue. And I really think that, when it comes down to being a Democrat or Republican, there's no I don't need to sell my soul. We have plenty of places there's common ground for us to all meet in the middle. There, on both sides, there are things that we all want for ourselves and for our kids. We all want good jobs. We all want to be able to afford to exist in a very expensive city. We want to be able to send our kids to decent schools, which I'm very pro school choice. I want to see that people to be able to choose where they want to send their kid to. Shouldn't be relegated by in some crappy zip code, so therefore you send your kid to some crappy school. I just think that at a certain point, I want to see more freedom in a lot of things, and I want to be able to have people have more choices. And I think that let people decide. So I think that if that's something that you think is important to you, then yes, please help me. I need all the help I can get. I'm running in a crazy, deep blue, the bluest of blue districts in the entire country, and it's going to take It's going to take some work. If that's something that you support, then definitely help me, because I want to help everyone. But, to
And
do.
it's worth the fight. Look, like I said, there are a lot of people who will say, candidates like yourself that are running in deep blue districts, don't need support. You're throwing your money away. I say that we've got to take the fight to them on their turf as often as possible. And and I hope that you do win, and that you can stare down AOC in Congress, because that'd be a lot of fun. But quite frankly, it may take a couple cycles, and you may need to run again. But at the end of the day, the only way we're going to take back our country is to take the battle to their turf. They have no problem taking it to our turf. We have to take it to theirs. And I thank you for coming and answering our questions.
Thank you.
We absolutely recommend our donors do support your campaign, and support support your efforts into turning New York back red, because don't forget, it was just a couple of decades ago where New York City voted in Rudy Giuliani, and he completely transformed that city into the shining city on the hill that it was intended to be. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you at Capitol Hill.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.